Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. Today we're diving into an incredible story of resilience, faith, and forgiveness. It's the story of Joseph, a young man whose life journey from a favored son to a powerful ruler in Egypt is filled with lessons for all of us. Our story begins in Genesis chapter 37. Joseph was the 11th son of Jacob, but he was the firstborn of Rachel, the wife Jacob loved most. This made Joseph his father's favorite, and Jacob showed this favoritism by gifting him a beautiful, ornate robe, often called a coat of many colors. As you can imagine, this special treatment didn't sit well with his 10 older brothers. Their jealousy was already simmering, and it was about to boil over. One day, Joseph, who was just 17, came to his brothers with a dream he'd had. He said, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." As Genesis chapter 37 verse 8 tells us, his brothers responded with anger, saying, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" He had another one and told it to his brothers and his father. "Listen," he said, "I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." When he told his father this, Jacob rebuked him, asking, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" Even so, while his brothers were consumed with jealousy, Genesis chapter 37 verse 11 notes that his father kept the matter in mind. The brothers' hatred soon reached a breaking point. When they saw him approaching from a distance, they plotted to kill him. "Let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns." But Reuben, the oldest, tried to save him, suggesting they just throw him into a pit, planning to rescue him later. So, when Joseph arrived, they stripped him of his beautiful robe and threw him into an empty cistern. While they sat down to eat, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites heading to Egypt. Judah had an idea. "What will we gain if we kill our brother?" he asked. "Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites." So they pulled Joseph out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver. To cover their crime, they dipped Joseph's robe in goat's blood and took it to their father, Jacob, who was convinced a wild animal had devoured his beloved son. Jacob mourned for Joseph for a very long time, refusing to be comforted. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold as a slave to Potiphar. Genesis chapter 39 verse 2 says, "The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master." Potiphar saw that the Lord blessed everything Joseph did, so he put him in charge of his entire household. Joseph was handsome and well-built, and soon Potiphar's wife began to notice him. Day after day, she tried to seduce him, but Joseph refused. "How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" This is a powerful lesson for us, a reminder of the importance of self-control and fearing God, as encouraged in 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 22, which tells us to flee youthful passions and pursue righteousness. One day, when no one else was in the house, she grabbed him by his cloak, pleading with him. But Joseph left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. Humiliated and angry, she lied, accusing Joseph of trying to attack her. Potiphar believed his wife and, in a rage, had Joseph thrown into prison. But once again, even in the darkness of the dungeon, the Lord was with Joseph. Genesis chapter 39 verse 21 says, "The Lord showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden." Soon the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners. While in prison, Joseph met two of Pharaoh's officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. One night, they both had dreams that troubled them. Joseph, seeing their distress, told them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams. The cupbearer dreamed of a vine with 3 branches that budded, blossomed, and produced ripe grapes, which he then squeezed into Pharaoh's cup. Joseph interpreted this to mean that in 3 days he would be restored to his position. He only asked one thing: when all goes well with you, remember me and mention me to Pharaoh to get me out of this prison. The baker then shared his dream of 3 baskets of white bread on his head, with birds eating from the top basket. Joseph's interpretation was grim. In 3 days, Pharaoh would hang him. And just as Joseph had said, 3 days later, the cupbearer was restored, and the baker was executed. But tragically, the cupbearer forgot all about Joseph. 2 full years passed. Then, Pharaoh himself had 2 disturbing dreams. In the first, 7 sleek, fat cows came up out of the Nile, but they were eaten by 7 ugly, gaunt cows. In the second, 7 healthy heads of grain were swallowed up by 7 thin, scorched heads. Pharaoh was deeply troubled, and none of his magicians or wise men could interpret the dreams. It was then that the chief cupbearer finally remembered Joseph. He told Pharaoh about the young Hebrew man in prison who could interpret dreams. Pharaoh immediately sent for Joseph. After shaving and changing his clothes, Joseph was brought before the most powerful man in the world. Pharaoh told him the dreams, and Joseph, giving all credit to God, explained their meaning. The 2 dreams are one and the same, Joseph said, as recorded in Genesis chapter 41. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows and 7 good heads of grain are 7 years of abundance. The 7 gaunt cows and 7 thin heads of grain are 7 years of famine that will follow. Joseph then advised Pharaoh to appoint a discerning and wise man to collect and store 1/5 of the harvest during the 7 years of plenty to prepare for the 7 years of famine. Pharaoh was so impressed. He declared to his officials, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" Turning to Joseph, he said, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace." And just like that, at 30 years old, the slave and prisoner Joseph became the 2nd most powerful man in Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. Just as Joseph predicted, 7 years of incredible abundance came, and he skillfully managed the storage of massive amounts of grain. Then the 7 years of famine began, and it was severe not just in Egypt, but in all the surrounding lands. When people cried out to Pharaoh for food, he told them, "Go to Joseph and do what he tells you." The famine also struck Canaan, where Jacob and his family lived. Hearing there was grain in Egypt, Jacob sent his 10 sons to buy some, but he kept his youngest son Benjamin at home, fearing harm might come to him. When the brothers arrived in Egypt, they came before Joseph and bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. Their brother, the one they had sold into slavery, was now the powerful governor they were bowing to for survival. And they had no idea who he was. Their very first dream had come true. Joseph recognized them immediately, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. He accused them of being spies. To prove their innocence, he demanded they bring their youngest brother Benjamin to him as a hostage and sent the others back with grain, and with the silver they had paid secretly returned to their sacks. When they discovered the silver, they were terrified. Back home, they told their father Jacob everything. Jacob was heartbroken and initially refused to let Benjamin go. But as the famine worsened and their grain ran out, Judah pledged his own life for Benjamin's safety, and Jacob reluctantly agreed. So the brothers returned to Egypt, this time with Benjamin. When Joseph saw his full brother, he was overcome with emotion and had to leave the room to weep. He hosted a feast for them, giving Benjamin 5 times the portion of anyone else. He then sent them on their way, but not before ordering his steward to once again return their silver and to place his own personal silver cup in Benjamin's sack. Soon after they left, Joseph sent his steward after them to accuse them of stealing the cup. When the cup was found in Benjamin's sack, the brothers were devastated. They returned to Joseph's house and fell to the ground before him. Judah made a passionate plea, offering to become Joseph's slave in Benjamin's place so that their father would not die of grief. Seeing their genuine remorse and change of heart, Joseph could no longer control himself. He sent everyone out of the room except his brothers. And then, weeping so loudly that the Egyptians outside could hear, he revealed his identity. "I am Joseph," he cried out. "Is my father still alive?" His brothers were speechless, terrified. But Joseph reassured them. As he says in Genesis chapter 45, verses 5 through 7, "Do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance." What an incredible display of forgiveness. Joseph saw God's sovereign hand in everything, even in the evil his brothers had done to him. He understood that God had used their wicked act for a greater good, to save their entire family and many others. Pharaoh was pleased to hear Joseph's family had come and provided them with the best land in Egypt, the land of Goshen. Joseph's brothers returned to Canaan and told their father the astonishing news. At first, Jacob couldn't believe it, but when he saw the carts Pharaoh had sent, his spirit revived. The entire family, 70 in all, moved to Egypt. The reunion between Jacob and his long-lost son was a moment of pure, overwhelming joy. Years later, after Jacob died, the brothers, fearing Joseph would now take revenge, came to him and fell at his feet, offering to be his slaves. But Joseph's response in Genesis chapter 50, verses 19 to 21, is one of the most powerful declarations of forgiveness in the entire Bible. He told them, "Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. So then, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children." And he reassured them and spoke kindly to them. This is the beautiful conclusion to Joseph's story. It's a powerful testament to the fact that no matter what we face, betrayal, injustice, hardship, God can work all things together for good. It's a story that teaches us the value of integrity, patience, and above all, the incredible, liberating power of forgiveness. Thank you so much for watching. If this story has touched you, please give this video a like. And don't forget to subscribe for more content that explores the timeless wisdom of the scriptures. See you next time. God bless you.